Hello and welcome to Isolation Chats, a podcast in isolation, brought to you by Stand Tall Theatre, a theatre company that specialises in mental health for young people and adults. Today, I have an incredible guest with me. It's James Leon. He's a singer and songwriter who has done a number of things. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about himself as well. But before that, I've got to remind you all that Isolation Chats comes out every single Tuesday. So please make sure you follow, please make sure you subscribe, and please share it with all of your friends. So James Leon, he's a London-based musician, actor, and writer. He's been writing and recording music for many years now, and he's released a string of independent singles, EPs, and the album Never Been Cool. His unique electro pop sound, and it is awesome, I must say, has found a steady growing following with internet music fans and bloggers. So make sure you check him out. James has performed live extensively in London and around the country, including renowned venues such as, now I'm going to butcher this name, so I do apologize, Café des Palais, hopefully I got that right, the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, and the Troubadour, as well as festivals including Cardiff Mardi Gras. I hope I got all those right. I hope so. He'll let me know, I'm sure. James, he's also worked with a number of producers and remixers, including Julian Simons, whose credits include there we go, include Ed Sheeran, Jerry Halliwell, Liam Gallagher, Beverly Knight, etc. So he's done a number of things in the music world, but that's not all. No. His talents extend far further. In recent years, James has also branched out into acting, training in the Meisner technique with, here we go again, with the Salon Collective, and also with the London Actors Workshop, who, if you've been following Stand Tall Theatre, you'll know we performed at Tristan Bates Theatre, so we know the workshop well. His roles so far include a number of short films, with roles ranging from a priest in Thunder Before Lightning, currently in post-production, to a father with depression. He's played a suspect and a son of a victim in recent US crime reconstruction shows on Sky TV, had a walk-in parts as a detective in the recent ITV series Honor. He has done a lot, my friends, whether it be writing, whether it be acting, or whether it be singing. And he's going to tell us a little bit about who he is and what he does. Over to you, James.
Thanks, Stevie, for that very nice introduction. Well, you know, when you say it like that, I guess it does sound a lot. But, you know, when it's over the many years of my my life, it doesn't always feel like you've done loads. You know, you always think of the things that you haven't done. But I've done a lot of different things. Yeah. Sometimes I say I'm a jack of all trades, but I probably shouldn't say that because music is my first passion, my real love. And I've been crazy about music since I was a small kid. And I started quite late because I was quite a shy child. I was always like writing lyrics and making songs and dancing and stuff. Oh, wow. I didn't really start writing songs properly, like recording, until my mid-20s. So, and that's quite a while ago. It is. So music has been the constant. And like you said in the intro, I've released a lot of stuff independently. I didn't get the holy grail so far of a record deal, although those things aren't so much of the thing that they used to be, because you can release your music independently these days. A lot of people do. Absolutely. So I've been writing, recording on and off whilst doing other things to make a living for a long time. And then a few years ago, I was like, I kind of want to do something else creative as well, because doing the music thing for a long time. And I kind of thought a bit about acting. So I did some short courses in acting, tentatively, just, dipping my toes in the water. Dipping your toes, yeah. Seeing, and then I had quite a few years. I had a full-time regular job working as a press officer for university. Oh, wow. Which paid my bills, paid for my recording sessions now and then. And then I got the opportunity to I took voluntary redundancy from that, and it was a good job, but good enough job. It wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I knew I was a creative person, and I'd fallen into that. I'd started off temping for a long time and was like, I don't want a permanent job. I'm just doing my music. but you need a regular income to do anything,
You need to
especially
survive.
you need to survive. Yeah. And I've been living in London for a long time, and it's not cheap, as you sure you
That's
know.
the challenge. That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but so a couple of years, 2.5 years ago, when I left my job, I thought, I was going to take a bit of time out. I'll try and just see if I can get some small little acting roles, just have a go. And that, yeah, I've really gotten the bug since then. So I've kind of got into acting, you know, quite a big way, I guess. But it's kind of, I'm still doing the music, so I'm juggling the both, and also trying to survive in these very difficult times and make a living like everybody who's creative and freelance, which I'm sure you know
Yeah, absolutely.
is a challenge, a real
It
challenge.
is.
Yeah.
It is. No, it's absolutely difficult. And it's so lovely to hear that you've had this sort of creative flair and ambition that sort of stayed with you constantly, whether it sort of express itself in different ways, whether that be music, acting, you know. And it's so lovely because, you know, I did trawl through your Spotify playlists and the records you've done.
Thank you for taking the time to do that.
No, and I encourage everyone else to take a look as well, because obviously Spotify is a free platform and it's great to be able to support and look at artists. Please follow James, because there are some incredible tracks on there that are really sort of, they take you on a journey. And I think that's the most important thing about music, is it has this power to uplift the soul and take people on different journeys. And your tracks in particular have that sort of, they have a really retro electro feel to them that's got full of energy, and it's also full of like passion, and like there's a lot of like knowingness. So when I listen to it, I feel like I know you a little bit more, even though, you know, I've only spoken to you a few times. And that was really interesting for me. And it's lovely to hear that you've sort of stepped inside the world of acting as well, and sort of, you know, acting is a very self-exploratory profession. It's where you get a chance to explore who you are as a person, don different masks, and then sort of express that in different ways. And I feel like, you know, I can see that in the music. And so to hear about that in the acting makes me want to see you on stage. It makes me want to see you on camera, because I'm like, oh, I bet that's a really interesting exploration coming on. I wonder if you can talk to me a little bit about sort of what it was like for you, like making the choice, I guess, to not to change, but to sort of go, I'm going to go into more acting. I'm going to take that a bit more seriously, because, you know, it is challenging. It is difficult, as you say, to sort of go, oh, I'm going to do this creative profession as well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for what you just said about my music, because it sounded like you really properly listened to it. You didn't just go, oh, I just check out one of his songs because I've been doing an interview, you know, which fair enough, some people would do. So yeah, that's nice. Really nice that you got that. And I am obviously very passionate about music and expressing myself and lyric writing, and it is quite personal. Yeah. But in terms of making that switch to acting, I mean, like I said at the beginning, it was a very tentative thing, because I've come to it late, you know, I've done several short intensive courses, but I haven't been to drama school, so I don't have that either. And I wasn't sure, you know, if I would be how easy it would be to get into it. And obviously it's not easy.
No,
you know, and I don't know. Well, you know that.
Yeah.
Even if you've got tons of training from the best places, you know, it's not easy. But for me, it was really lovely when I started doing courses, just to do something different from music, that I didn't have the same pressure.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing music a long time, and it was everything to me. And it probably deep down it still is. But
it still is. Yeah, it's that constant,
yeah.
isn't it, as you said?
Yeah, but it was like for a long time, it's like, I've got to make it, you know. And I haven't become hugely famous and successful with it, you know. You still live in hope, you know. When that's your dream, you never give up. And I have very slowly got some sort of following, but it is very small, you know. It's very small, and it's still a struggle. And so there was always a lot of, and it also, I'm a solo artist. I write with other people, which I love, really enjoy, but I've never had anyone else to promote me or, you know, work with me. So it's been quite a lonely, it's been a fun journey, but a very stressful one. Yeah, very up and down. So to do acting was like, start acting classes now. It's just no pressure, just gonna like see what this is like, you know. And also just to work with other people, you know, like, you know, from acting, as you know yourself, I think like it's just really nice to kind of
be a part of a team, you know, really like a team for a long time. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd never had, I mean, I've worked in teams in my day jobs and stuff, obviously, but I've never had that with music. So it was, it was refreshing, and it was quite energizing really to start doing it. And I think it's only really, and it's when I did the Meisner stuff that I thought, actually this is really exciting. I want to have a go at this really. And I didn't have huge expectations to say, well, I don't know if I have huge expectations now. I probably do on some level, because anybody that's like anybody that's like a performer really is lying if they say they wouldn't like to be really successful, I think, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, most people, some people don't, but you know, but I was like, I just want to see if I can get a bit of experience and just get some parts, because I was aware that, you know, I'm older and I haven't been to drama school, you know. And so it was just really it was just quite fun and exciting with that, you know, when I started really. And you know, I've only done like short films and stuff, and okay, the couple of TV things I've done have been quite exciting, but they've been like non-speaking parts, you know. I'm there, you can see me, but I'm not. So they were a really great experience, but they're not speaking parts. But my speaking parts have been mostly short films, and a small part in a web series.
Oh, cool.
Which was meant to come out at the beginning of the year and should have been quite exciting. I don't really know. I'm not really sure what's happened with it, because it's still
Apocalypse.
Yeah, it's called, it's about the LGBTQ community. It's called Queers Without Fears, and it's made by somebody called Rain Dove, who's actually quite well known. She's a model and activist and influencer, and she made this series and launched the first 2 episodes in January, and I think she's had lots of stuff going on. So the 3rd episode, which was the one that I'm in briefly, where I play a wealthy. It's very it's a shame it hasn't come out, because the series is like really apocalyptic. It's like it almost kind of predicted what's happened in a way.
Wow.
In a way, it was like, because they had characters wearing like the visors and everything, and it's about I mean, it's very like sort of crazy and fun and random, you know, and all shot like handheld and everything. But it's about it's sort of set in a dystopian future where the world has become, there's no boundaries between countries. It's just and the LGBTQ community have been driven underground again. Well, I've been driven underground and in bunkers, and I played this rich guy briefly who is gay, but lives a kind of quite a slightly low-key, almost closeted life, who wants to help these community, and by providing them the opportunity to win a place on his island. So it's kind of so it was it's very random. It was a day shooting, and it was fun, but it hasn't come out, so you
can't find it. Not yet.
We hope it might, but I don't know whether I'm any good in it anyway. It was all improvised, so that was a really fun, crazy experience. But like I say, like, you know, the things I've done is nothing major, you know. It was cool to be on ITV a couple of weeks ago on the detective series with Keely Hawes, where I was playing a detective helping with an arrest, but you know, blink and you'll miss me, you know. There's no
that's always the way, isn't it, with the doing the supporting artist roles and what have you.
Absolutely. So
there I am, and there I'm gone.
It wasn't real acting, you know, but it was but it's been really fun to sort of try something different and kind of explore that. I mean, I'm obviously now, like anything, the more serious you become about something, then the more pressure you put on yourself.
Absolutely. You start piling that pressure on, because suddenly you're like, I need to pay my bills with this, you know, so I need to do the things that work.
Absolutely. So it's like, it's, you know, like I was saying, when I started doing acting, it was like, oh, this is a nice refreshing change of music, because I'm just dipping my toes in the water. And now it's a bit more serious for me, and it's like it's harder. And also, obviously, as you know, and as everyone probably knows, at the moment, well, it was, you know, everything was shut down for several months.
I mean, that's the difficulty, isn't it? You've decided to dip your toes in the water during the sort of theatre apocalypse as well, where like, the culture industry starts to strangle itself.
I know. Like, I just started a couple of years, and things would just get sort of building a little bit, and then a little bit.
But in a sort of way of serendipity, I suppose. Like your internet following, I'm sure, it will allow itself to balloon during this time because people are looking for music, people are looking for things online to engage with. So hopefully, you know, people might be drawn towards your sort of music side as well, which is great to see that you have both.
Yeah, that's true. Let's hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I put a remix out in the summer of a track that I did last year. I Thought You Were My Friend, and the remix
Yes.
was done by my friend who calls himself Polaric. He's based in Manchester, and he's a real out and out 80s style kind of
Yeah.
remix. And that was like one of the most popular things I've done. I mean, it still doesn't have millions of streams, but you know, it did get quite a few people have said how much they like it, and
it's a really nice song. It's a really interesting song. Like both the Polarix remix and the initial one that was it 2019 was the first version?
Last year, yeah.
Because I've got them up here on my second screen, and I was going to ask you about sort of where the writing came from for I Thought You Were My Friend, and sort of ask you about the sort of remixing and how that came about as well. Because I have a few listeners who are either DJs, wannabe DJs, or wannabe songwriters and singers. And, I was chatting to one of my acquaintances, I would say friend, but we've only met once in real life. So my best friend, Jay Suave, who is he's a rapper. And he was talking to me about what he's been doing and his recordings and his online experience and stuff. And he was talking to me a little bit about his journey of like writing a song. And obviously I've been composing a couple of songs recently for our performances coming out soon.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's been interesting to chat to different songwriters. So I wonder, I'm going to ask you a few questions about a few of your songs. I hope you don't mind. Both from the sort of Zen album, because I really like that album, which is it's called Zen, isn't it? It's 2015.
Yeah, it's an EP. Yeah, it's EP.
It's EP, sorry.
Yeah.
As well as the sort of Never Been Cool, because I really like that. And I Thought You Were My Friend were the sort of three I wanted to touch upon.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Excellent.
If you don't mind. So let's start with I Thought You Were My Friend, because that's really cool.
Okay, thank you. So where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite an interesting one, because the actual title and the original hook I actually wrote many years ago, before I had recorded any songs, when I was probably about 23. So last year. Yeah, no, a long time
last year.
No, a long time ago. And then the guy I just mentioned, who calls himself Polaric, Pete, who's my friend from Manchester, who I've now, he's remixed a few of my tracks, and I've written my last 2 singles with him. He actually sent me, we were talking about some ideas for sounds for a track to do, because we did one that came out in 2018 called FOMO, which is actually released under Project XS, a different name.
Yeah.
Which is it's quite a dance track, and we were talking about ideas for the next track. And he sent me this music track, the initial music, and I mean as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my god, this is my next song. I absolutely love this. So because I don't write the music. Like typically when I've worked with people in the past, I usually start with a lyric and an idea for a melody, and then I go into a studio with them. That's how we do it. And then they'd come up with some music, I'd give them some ideas for sounds, we'd put it together like that. But with Pete, he's sent me a music track first, and then I've come up with a lyric and a top line melody to go over it. And as soon as he sent me this music track, it sounds a bit corny, but it really moved me. Like I had like a really emotive reaction to it. I really connect, because sometimes people send you, sometimes this happens and it's like, it's good, but you don't really connect with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard it as well, really randomly, this lyric that had been kicking around all this time, because I have tons of lyrics, because I write, that's my thing, lyrics. I write lyrics constantly. Like I've got notebooks, folders, files on my computer, my phone, everywhere with lyrics in. It's like an affliction almost. I can't stop.
You can't stop. It's just writing, scrolling all the time.
I don't write on the walls, but yeah. As soon as I got this I Thought You Were My Friend lyric came back to me, and then I started. It took quite a while. I was working on it on and off, because I think I write a lot slower than I used to, but like to be honest. But sometimes with songs you write, I've written them really quickly, but this one took a long time, and I was I was sort of singing over the top of it and reworking the lyrics, and they changed a lot. And then I sort of got to a point where I was like, I kind of know how I think it should be, and I booked a studio session, and I worked with somebody different than I'd worked with before to actually record my vocals properly and have it mixed and everything. And I went into the studio with this Danish guy who I had actually never met before the session, because I was my usual guy, Julian, who I normally record with. He's been doing a lot of stuff in Switzerland, so with Swiss artists, so he wasn't available. So I had to find somebody new for the first time in years.
Oh my gosh.
So, which is hard, and it's kind of changed from when I was first doing it. When I was first doing it, you'd like find an ad or something, and you'd ring up and you'd go and meet people. But nobody really does. Everything's done remotely now, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Nobody wants to meet in real life. So I tried a few studios, and I found one that they sent me a Spotify link to some of the stuff that they had different producers that they'd worked on. There was a few things I thought, I quite like the production on that. And then they suggested a couple of people, and then they found me this guy Christian, who's a Danish guy, and I had never met him, but I thought, his work sounds quite good. So I went into the studio with him, and okay, we weren't writing the track, so it wasn't quite as much of a big deal, because that's obviously quite a personal thing. But still, to go and work in a studio and sing in front of someone that you haven't met before is quite a little bit intimidating. But I can imagine. But he was a very quiet and assuming guy, but like he was a good producer, and he actually sort of worked with me. We actually rewrote a bit of the song, and on that day we changed the structure a bit. And I wasn't actually, when you book, it's quite expensive studio time, and when you've booked it, you've got that sort of 7 hours to record your track, and it's quite a lot of pressure, because that's all you've got, unless you're Lady Gaga or Beyonce or whatever, and you've got a huge budget, you've just got to get it done. And I wasn't totally convinced about this change of structure, because we took out quite a lot of lyrics and we simplified it a bit, but I just went with it.
Yeah, you just sort of went with it, because you're like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then afterwards, I wasn't too sure, but then I listened to it again. I thought, no, this feels good. The original version that was different was really good too. And Pete, who I originally wrote it with, we have talked, maybe at some point we might have a go at doing another version, do that version as well.
Yeah, but I think that's the best thing about it, isn't it? You can play around with the sound, you can play around with sort of what works, what you want it to be like and feel like. So I think that's interesting.
Absolutely. But that's how it came together, really. And people seem to like it, and it's it's not. I'm pleased that you said you appreciate the song. So
I think it's very evocative. I think the title in particular is I Thought You Were My Friend. The way the lyrics sort of crescendo into each other, and the musical journey alongside the lyrics really worked for me, and sort of really did capture my imagination. And I think that's the most powerful thing when it comes to me connecting with an artist, and musical artists in particular. I mean, my wife being a classical opera singer, I've been confronted with a lot, but I love like rap and R&B. So really? I've been connected to this whole new world of music, which has been brilliant, actually. Go on.
Yeah, that's really lovely that you say that, and when I wrote the original lyrics all that time ago, it was quite personal. And I think it was, even though I was using that idea now, a year or two ago, it was still very about personal things to me then as well, and also it becomes universal as well. It's sort of something personal, but it's also,
People
the idea
connect to it.
Yeah, it's got its life of its own, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree. No, thank you so much. I really loved the song, and sort of I listened to the Never Been Cool. And the reason I did that, because I was like, I don't have time to listen to everything. I really wanted to,
of course,
to what I could. And I was like, I'm going to choose ones where I'm going to judge the book by the cover. I'm like, I like that. So I had a look and had a listen. And for some reason, I don't know, Tim Mitchin, he wrote the music for Matilda. But
Yes.
before that, he's obviously a comedian. He's a fantastic composer in terms of pianist. And one of the songs that I really like of his, two of the songs that I really like of his, are A Dark Side and Rock and Roll Nerd. Rock and Roll Nerd is the one which connected for some reason. I don't know why. Different styles of sounds completely. But when I read the lyrics, I've never been cool, I thought of Rock and Roll Nerd, and I thought of the journey that song goes on. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to connect to. So I have to ask James, number one, where did the title come from? Number two, you are cool. Number three, how did that one come about?
Well, first of all, thanks for calling me cool. You know, you don't have to say that.
Sorry.
Well, it kind of came. It's a pretty personal. It is a really personal song. Yeah, you know, even though it's kind of tongue in cheek as well. You know, it's kind of because I've always kind of felt that I'm always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Slightly, I'm just slightly
that's what I was getting.
Slightly out of sync with things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's sort of I'm just, you know, so the lyrics are sort of fun, but they're kind of about my life, you know. Like, I've had a lot of fun, I've been friends with everyone, and I've gone out, I've stayed in, I've been, you know, I've been a sort of out there freak, I've been a bedroom geek. It's slightly exaggerated, but it's like at different stages of my life, you know. I have been like that shy, quiet person.
Yeah.
But I've also been that quite confident party animal person. I've been the performer. I've been the person that struggled. I've been the person that's had a bit of attention. You know, it's all of those. It just flowed, and you know, it just. And, you know, and then the title came from that, Never Been Cool. And then you're like, well, that is quite a good title, I guess. You know,
it's a good title. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you pick up on that song. It is one that people often do like of my songs. It is quite, you know, I mean, it could do some more streams, but it's, you know, people that have listened to me, or people that have seen me perform live, they often go, oh, I really like that Never Been Cool song.
Yeah, I can see why.
I think people kind of relate to that, don't they? Because most of us feel like we're not cool, don't we?
I think so. Right? Like, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely not cool. Definitely.
I'm sure
not.
You are.
No.
But unless you're like super cocky and full of yourself, you don't. Yeah. Most people think that.
So true. If you listen to it, think, I'm always cool. I don't know what.
Who would say that? You know, well, an English person. I'm an American person, Mike, but English person. Oh, sorry. Say that.
Oh no, we have a lot of American listeners, guys.
I love Americans. Like, listen, my granddad was American, honestly.
No, I really liked it. I really connected with it. And it did I think it was the tongue-in-cheek nature. I think it was the sort of it was very personal, but it was tongue-in-cheek. And it's so similar to Tim Mitchell's Rock and Roll Nerd. I don't know if you've heard that song. Listen to that as well.
I'm familiar with him. Obviously, I'm familiar with Tim Minchin a bit, you know, and obviously he's a very talented and interesting guy, but like, I haven't really heard that song. No, I haven't heard it, so I will check it out.
You've got to, because you'll see what I mean. You'll listen to it. It's musically, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
But it talks and expresses the same ideas of like being the guy who learned piano, not guitar. You know, and I was just like, and I was like, oh, everyone was learning Stairway to Heaven while I'm learning Elton John. I was like, oh my God, I really connected with that, which is similar to the Never Been Cool. I was like, oh my God, it's a conversation. So yeah, no, I love that one. And then the last one I wanted to sort of talk to you about before we move on to the quotes and stuff is Zen.
Yeah, Zen to the Power. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's quite, I guess it's quite an esoteric kind of, idea for a song, that one. It's kind of, you know, it's really about escaping in your imagination, really.
It felt immersive. It felt like an immersive kind of, it had a different kind of sound to me, to the other. Obviously they're all different sounds, but you know what I mean, it has a different feeling to it. Yeah,
it's kind of, I mean, first of all, I think from what I remember, the title just came to me by itself, really. The title Zen, and then then I had the To the Power kind of hook in my head, but so I then wrote a lyric around that idea. But it's kind of just kind of about loosely. It is kind of like, it's not, it is personal, it is really personal, but it's a bit more of a loose concept, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just about, you know, being a bit trapped in a work, maybe working in a 9 to 5 job, living a life that's not really what you want to do, being a creative person, and it's longing for that escape, which I'm sure, you know, maybe you can relate to, or lots of people can relate to.
I think they can, especially now.
Yeah,
Especially now.
yeah, and just escaping via your imagination and your own thoughts, really. So it's a bit sort of out there, you know, bit you know, maybe a bit hippie-ish almost, really, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It has interesting connotations, but like I think it is really powerful in its own way. And I think all the songs I've mentioned, alongside other ones like Underground Lover, for example, or you know, a lot of the other songs you've done, they all feel personal, but they all have a lot of like relatability, I think. And I think that's what I liked most about your artistry and your music. Obviously, I've not got a chance to see your acting yet, so I can't say that about that. But with the music in particular, I did relate to it. I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's really interesting. It's really insightful. It's really immersive. There are a variety of sounds there that I was getting from the music, which is nice as well, because I like it when artists express themselves in different sounds. I always find that really interesting, really engaging. So yeah, thank you so much for taking us on the journey of your discography a little bit.
No, it's a pleasure, and you know, I really appreciate that you'd actually taken the time to listen and sort of really got into a bit the ideas and stuff that I've.
I'll be keep listening. Don't worry. you got to make more. I'm gonna keep listening.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I followed. So I wanted to talk about the quote that you've bought. Obviously, I've not heard the quote yet, as with all my guests. I don't hear the quote until they bring it to me. And I'm really excited to hear yours, because the one thing I do know about yours is from music. Which makes sense. Which makes a lot of sense. So I wonder if you could tell us what that quote is and who it's by.
Okay, well, first of all, so it's a bit random, because I mean I do read a lot. I like my books, and I love poetry and stuff, but I'm not very good at remembering quotes from poetry and stuff like that. And a quote came to me from a song, and it might sound like I'm, you know, it's a bit random. It might sound like I'm taking the mick a bit, but because it's from like a 90s pop song, so it you know, okay.
I like the preface there. 90s pop song, guys. Everyone prepare. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
No, it's from a song by I don't know. You're probably too young to remember them, Stevie, but by
I might be.
Yeah, I think you are, but it's from a 90s pop band called Swedish band called Ace of Base, who have probably got a pretty cheesy image. You know, most people know them from all That She Wants and stuff.
Yeah.
But they have a song on one of their albums which is called Ravine, and it's actually, like, if you listen to their album The Bridge, which is actually quite a lot of quite atmospheric stuff on there, and it's probably, you know, it is very 90s, but it's got more depth than people probably expect. But there's just a line in this song, and it says, and it's a very small line, and it's like humility, you win when you lose. And I just it's always stuck in my head, that line. And it's, you know, it's really short and really simple, and I hope it doesn't seem like I'm not taking this seriously by quoting Ace of Base, you know.
Didn't expect it. It's good.
No, like I could have tried to search for some poetry and stuff, and I love poetry and that, but I just really like that line, like humility, you win when you lose, you know.
I think choosing something that's important, that means something to you, I think that's the most important thing, you know, is connecting with something and then choosing to express that, because that's what will connect with the people who are listening to this episode, you know, and who are connecting to your story, I'm sure.
Probably some of the people that like my music will like Ace of Base as well, so, and they will be old enough to know them as well, so they'll, you know, they might be like, oh my god, what the hell, but you know, they might like it.
I think it's really powerful. I think the quote itself is really interesting. I think it's really evocative, and although it's simple, I think some of the best quotes are simple, you know, because they're the ones that do stay with you. They're the ones that hold a lot of power over each individual. I think they help generate narratives for a person and keep those people strong when we feel like we're not, and when we feel like we're sort of being drained, that's when they give us power.
Yeah, well, it stuck with me, you know, and I've all the other things, you know, like I said, do read a lot, but things that lines haven't stuck with me. Maybe it's my memory, you know, but I've obviously remembered song lyrics, you know, I can remember, but that one particularly, because it's kind of like, you know, in life we're always taught it's about winning, aren't we? You know, not society. But actually, you know, and it's not it's not great. You don't feel great if you lose or fail at something, but you do learn, as corny as it might sound, or you know, you do learn a lot from that, and it does make you have more humility. And perhaps I've had like tons and tons and tons of knockbacks in my life, you know, but it does make you appreciate the good things, you know, and when things that do go well, you know. So you know, maybe Ace of Base were quite wise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's so interesting, especially when you bring up this idea of like the way society promotes winners a lot more than it promotes losers or losing. And when actually you create the biggest transformational change in a person when they lose and they learn to be humble and they learn from that, you know, because unfortunately we can't all be winners. And actually most of us are losers at the majority of things we try and do, because you have to lose to get better to win. You know, it's not something that needs to be competitive. It's just something we need to learn to adjust the way we think about things. Society needs to adjust the way it promotes things. Personally,
I think particularly nowadays, we live in a society that's very, very focused on achievement, like more than it ever was, you know, because I have younger brothers, and you know, I noticed it in them that, you know, of course we all have it, we've all grown up with it, but I feel like you know, that you know, we're talking, you know, obviously that your podcast talks about mental health, and I think anxiety and mental health issues are, you know, really big problem amongst amongst everybody, but particularly young people, because and I think there's just so much emphasis on achievement, you know. And I'm not saying it's good to have ambition. I've always had ambition, but the idea that unless you're the best or you're really successful, that your life doesn't mean anything, you know. And I think that, you know, and that it's all about money and status and how you look, which we all get sucked into. But I think, you know, just to be able to appreciate, it sounds like a bit naff, but just being alive and the things you do have, and the things, what you're doing, and your experiences is really important. And just because you're not winning, it doesn't mean you're a loser, you know.
Totally agree. I've never agreed more. Like, preach, James, preach. No, honestly, I'm so like, I was sat there like, yeah, because you're so right. You know, I feel like society as a whole, especially Western society, let's not try and draw everyone into this, has this horrible mentality of like competitiveness and competitive nature. Everything needs to be competitive. The arts need to be competitive, when artistic expression needs to just be an expression of the person, an expression of the self.
Exactly.
When you're expressing yourself, there is no competition. There's this constant contradiction of people, and I'm so passionate about dismantling that, because it is so detrimental to our young people, to our adults. We don't prepare our young people emotionally. We don't teach them emotional intelligence. So we're not equipped with resources to cope with the adult world of competition, the adult world of constant pressure that's put upon us by external forces, when actually, if you ground yourself, if you take stock of what you have, who you are, if you take stock of your own experiences, you can feel a lot better about yourself, and you can generate change, and you can generate sort of almost a love for yourself through detaching the level of competition that is sort of presented to us from external forces, you know.
Absolutely. It's not easy, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm no, you know, I'm just as much subject to these things as anybody, you know. But sometimes, you know, I've learned with experience and age, whatever, to be a bit more chilled about things and go, who cares what they're doing or about this? I'm just, you know, doing my thing or whatever, you know. I have those moments of zen or get that in there, or calm, or you know, whatever. But other times I'm like, you know, checking social media and I'm going, oh my god, they've brought out a single and they've got way more streams than me, and that, you know, I'm just as much, you know, it's hard to you know. I mean, I think, you know, my dad said this, you know, he's, you know, quite recently, he's like, he feels like, he said, you know, I feel like today all people care about is how they look and what they can buy. And I think a lot of people aren't like that. Not everyone's like that, but there is a lot of that, I think.
I totally agree. We're presented with a perceived reality, the reality in which we create and present to each other. We peacock all the time on social media, showing the best versions of our realities and not showing the sort of bad things, or when we do look bad or when we have a giant spot on our nose. We don't show that,
No,
because why
I like
would
that
we?
peacocking. Yeah, I like the peacocking. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
It is. We're
and
just
it's
like,
crazy, isn't it? We all do it
oh
because it's
yeah.
almost like you have to feel like you have to, because everyone else is doing it. And particularly if you are a performer or in the creative industries, you also practically you have to promote what you're doing.
You have to promote the best side of what you're doing as well. Not promote when you sing an off note. It's like, oh
no, exactly. Like I try to be I am quite a sort of honest person, but there's still sometimes I will put things that are a bit more honest and self-deprecating. But then at the same time, I also post things that, like, yay, this podcast has shared my song, or this playlist or whatever. You have to, but it's constant.
It's balance, isn't it? It's all about that balance.
Balance, and balance is not. I don't think it's an easy thing, is it? Well, it's not for me anyway.
It's hard, and I don't think it's just hard for you. I think it's hard for everyone. I think every person struggles with balance because of external forces, because of the external voices. As artists, we make the invisible visible, and then we present that to people, and we often peacock about it because we feel like we have to. We feel like that's the only way of sharing what we do and getting validation for what we do, because a lot of the time art is devalued. Let's not bring in politics, but it is, unfortunately.
Especially at the moment, but like you say, let's not go there maybe at the moment. But it's very.
That's another hour. That's another podcast. That's another one.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. That's a chat show.
It really is. It really is.
And also artists are insecure. Let's be honest. Like
oh, absolutely.
Artists that by nature is like, that's what drives people to do it. Is that need for expression, but also to be noticed, for validation. And I totally own up to feeling those needs, and you wouldn't create, I don't think, if you didn't have some of that. So it's not all bad, but obviously social media and also this culture we were talking about of you've got to succeed and be the best and show the best, it does put does make that tougher.
It does. Insurmountable pressure, isn't it? It's so difficult and challenging, but it's something that we all have to strive towards a balance, and we have to strive towards making aware that doesn't have to be the only way. And I've got a fantastic quote here I wasn't sure I was going to have time for, but it really relates to this. Funnily enough, I don't know how, not planned, which it's from the Pocketbook of Mindfulness, Live in the Moment and Reduce Stress. So it's a great little book full of loads of little anecdotes and quotes for helping you cope every day. And on page 54, towards the middle of the book, it says, every moment there is a possibility to be total. Whatsoever you are doing, be absorbed in it so utterly that the mind thinks nothing is just there, is just a presence. And that's by Osho. And I love this idea of just being present and just trying to be immersed in something. I think that's what music does so well, in immersing us in just a present moment. I remember during the sort of height of lockdown, and I know some of us are experiencing more lockdown restrictions than others right now. And some of us are in isolation again. You know, it's something we're going to have to deal with for a long time. But during the height of the national lockdown, Passenger, fantastic artist, one of my favorite sort of artists, was doing a live show every Sunday where he'd sing some of his songs from his home and he would chat to the chat. And it was the most crazy thing to engaging with him and be talking to Passenger and have him responding online. I was like, what is this world? What is this? And he was just so down to earth. And I was like, this is what it should be. Art should be more accessible like this and valued more because it means so much. And just an artist like Passenger giving that away for free, bringing people together, it gave me a lot of connection in my isolation. And I think that was so important.
Which we really needed, didn't we? You know, and we may need going forward, as you said, because we've all been very isolated, really.
Absolutely. Isolation chats. But thank you so much, James. It has been a pleasure having you on. Can you tell us where people can find you, where people can support your work? Remember, guys, those links will be down below in the description on YouTube, and there should be one link on all of the other audio platforms as well.
Well, first, thanks so much for having me on, Stevie. It's been a real pleasure. Really enjoyed chatting. Probably could have talked for ages.
Could have done.
Gone off on lots of tangents. But yeah, so it's James Leon, as you've said, and I'm on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, you name it. And then on Twitter, it's at James Leon 1, as it is on Instagram. You can find me on there, or add me on Facebook. There is, I have to say, a couple of other James Leons doing music on, which is a bit annoying. One is from South America. What can you say? I don't want to change the name, but you can see that they are not me anyway. You know,
you should change it to James Leon Best One.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's James Leon. I'm all over the place, really. Yeah, please listen to my music and give me some more streams and shares. I'd
guys.
Really appreciate it. Validate me.
Validate him. If you're listening to this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, you'll probably find James there. So you can go and follow him as well.
I'm everywhere.
So thank you so much, James. And thank you, listeners. No worries. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you are watching on YouTube, remember to follow, remember to subscribe, remember to share with your friends, remember to support the fabulous guests we have and support other artists around you. There are those people out there who are struggling. Make sure to reach out to them. Make sure to show everyone that they are supported and they are loved. We love you. We hope you love this. So good afternoon, good night, and good morning, depending on when you're listening. And I'll speak to you and see you again soon. And hear you again soon. Bye.